So sexless marriages is a big topic in the manosphere community, not just the black manosphere, white manosphere also. And the reason is that a lot of guys invest a lot into long-term relationships. You court, you date, you buy houses, you build businesses. A lot of times you even share assets. And oh, by the way, they're children. But after making that particular investment, pretty much convincing your wife in comparisons to other guys that you're the one for her, then you find out that as the relationship progresses, she doesn't want to have sex with you. Now, let me before we get into some of the videos today, I could understand if it's from the vantage point that, you were cheating on your wife, you were abusive to your wife, things like that. It's very understandable as to why a woman wants to fall out of love with you and not trust you anymore. I get it. But what about situations in which you're doing nothing wrong as a man and you're doing what you're supposed to do? Like you're still paying the bills, you're still sacrificing, you're doing everything that you're supposed to do, and then your wife doesn't want to have sex. But let's throw a bigger kicker in the game. What if your wife doesn't want to have sex with you because of Jesus? What? Welcome to Fair Use Reactions. Let's get into the video. Last year or 2 years ago, I had this specific conversation with Dr. Tieson Johnson about men in sexless marriages. Now, Tieson Johnson is an awesome intellectual, especially in the men rights community, in particular black men. And we were talking about why women would even decide to participate in sexless relationships or marriages in the first place. Now, what I'd like to do is play a clip of that audio or video, and then we'll come back. Why are some of the reasons from the men that I know you've experienced it yourself, but what were some of the reasons that these men, because obviously you talk to your wife or you talk to your partner about this sexless relationship that's going on or no intimacy, what are some of the reasons that the wife gives as to why they don't want to do it?
There are a number of reasons. Some that she'll give, some that she won't, some that you figure out. But mismatched sexual libidos, lack of communication, childbirth, antidepressants, hyposexual desire disorder, or low sex drive, history of sexual abuse. A lot of women deal with that, where they've been sexually abused, raped, or violated even when they were young. And a lot of men deal with that as well, by the way. So porn addiction, grief, vaginal dryness, even due to menopause, body image issues, financial problems, all of these things contribute to the dynamic. But you raised a significant one, and that's trust. Now, sometimes there's a reason where that's in place, where if you stepped out on her and she doesn't trust you, sometimes that you've done nothing and she just doesn't trust you for her own reasons, whatever insecurities might be at play with her. So even when we say trust as an issue, as far as where women are coming from, it doesn't necessarily mean that a man has done something. It can simply mean that she believes he has, or is worried about the fact that she has, and she's withdrawn from him emotionally and disconnected. And, often there's no conversation about it. You intimated this a little bit earlier. It'll go from a few days to a few weeks to a few months. And, and I know in my situation, I tried everything. I tried conversation. I tried candlelight dinners. I tried therapy. I tried arguments. I thought, hey, maybe I'll piss her off and she'll say something. At the end of the day, I never found out. And I've engaged a lot of brothers that just don't know why. Even after therapy, couples therapy, still haven't been given a straightforward reason. So there are some reasons that you can kind of, pull out. And there are situations sometimes where you just never find out.
So I want to build on a few of those concepts that Dr. Tieson Johnson is really building upon. Number one, yes, it's true. A man could have certain levels of mistrust in the relationship, forcing a woman to, take away that urge to want to be intimate with him or sexually intimate with him. That is also the truth. But then we have idiopathic reasons why. And idiopathic is a medical term where a disease or something bad happens out of nowhere. Okay? For an example, he mentions a woman can get to be overweight, right? She could just gain weight and not feel good about herself as an excuse and not want to have sex. A woman can be influenced by her friends. A woman can have all different sorts of things, kids, childbearing, hormones not there. But the man has done nothing. In fact, the man can still be a great husband. He's working, he's paying the bills, he's done everything he's supposed to do since he's been in the relationship with the woman. It's her who has changed in an idiopathic fashion. But now, let's get into today's topic. There is a Christian woman, okay, who has a Christian husband. The man has done no wrong. But I want to review this video about how he's being punished for being the right guy at the wrong time. Let's get into it.
So I'm going to talk about something that might make you a little uncomfortable, but it's okay because we ain't about comfort over here. So my husband and I went to a event, I guess you can say, or like a class in church called Elevated Marriage. It was my first time there. It was his second time there. And I look at the topic and I'm like, what are they going to talk about today, right? And I look down at the paper and it says sex and marriage. So I was kind of like taken aback by it because I've actually been like in my mind thinking about that a lot, only because I look at sex from a negative lens, kind of. I could say God is healing me from that because of my past. And I want to give y'all some revelation that I just got from yesterday. So a lot of us grew up being very promiscuous. If you did not grow up that way, bless you, you saved yourself from so much damage. But because I grew up like that, when I got into a relationship that was actually a real relationship and now my marriage, I realized that because God took away my desire for promiscuity and all that stuff, that I didn't have a desire anymore, even like for my husband. And although my husband and I would have sex, it was like really hard for me. Like I really had to push myself to go there. And it was like an internal battle I fought because I felt so bad. I'm like, am I not attracted to my husband? Like, why don't I want to have sex? Yada, yada, yada. And I would have this conversation with God all the time in my head and never talk to my husband about it. So yesterday I'm sitting in there and I'm just like, I can't believe God is answering this prayer for me right now. So here was the one that stood out to me the most. In the world, we are taught that sex is better outside of marriage. But in the kingdom of God, and why he tells us to wait, is because sex with your husband, when you become one with them, is actually like the highest form of praise to God. Like our bodies were meant to have sex and meant to be unified with one another in deep intimacy. And this lady told me, she was like, some of you need to forgive yourself for being promiscuous. Some of you need to forgive yourself or forgive the people that have introduced you to perversion and the things that you've seen, even like as a child. And that made so much sense to me. Because think about it, you guys. If we were never meant to have sex outside of marriage, then we wouldn't be having these weird thoughts inside of marriage of, oh, I'm not that person anymore. Oh, I'm not promiscuous anymore. Oh, I'm not this. Oh, I'm not that. But that's a lie. You were meant to be hot with your husband or hot with your wife. You would have became a freak anyways, eventually, with your husband or your wife, right? I don't know, man. I hope that hit y'all the way it hit me because it made a lot of sense to me. It'll only make sense to the people that it's meant for.
So let me just say this. There are some things about that I don't agree with, but the overall synopsis, I agree with. Because she says she feels bad because she was promiscuous before she met her husband. And then who has to pay the consequence? The husband. And that's something that's very normal with a lot of men in relationships with women. Now, women don't want to deal with you when you have mommy issues or you have issues of, other disorders coming from the past. But clearly, women expect men to deal with their problems all the time. That's why you hear so many of the singers in the 90s said, take me as I am, right? Now, they'll never take you as you are, for sure. But women want you to accept them where they are. And whatever damages and issues that they have, you're supposed to work through it, even when you marry them. Now, obviously, what this young woman doesn't understand, the man had already been into this kind of Christian relationship therapy thing once before her, because she said it was his second time, her first time, meaning that he was already progressing to leave her. So, but he was trying to give her some chances to work it out. Okay? So listen, you need to come to this Elevate thing with me. If not, it's not going to be cool. But eventually she got it. But how many guys are going through that and their wife doesn't get it? Their wife, you go to the counseling sessions, you go through all that. I'm a big firm believer of this. If you have to go to counseling relationships because your wife won't have sex with you, it doesn't matter why she doesn't want to do it. If she can't tell you, because obviously the woman was saying, I was talking to God about it, but not him, then you tell God to come over here and help you get your stuff. You tell God to pay the rent next month. And I'm a firm believer in God, but since you believe that God will make a way for you, you come and have him help you come and get your point blank. I don't believe in the fact that your wife doesn't want to have sex with you. I need to go to some therapy, or my girlfriend doesn't want something with me to get it right. You don't want to do it because you don't want to do it. For whatever reason you don't want to do it, get out. Period. You don't want to talk to me about it? You don't want to be an adult? We can't solve it? Go. And it's time for men to stop dealing with women problems when they will not deal with yours. It's the truth. A lot of young men need to understand this. If you are broke, if you don't have anything, women won't even deal with you. But now when you deal with them, they have all of this baggage from other people that you don't even know. Like, if you have all these problems from these guys, go work on yourself before you start dating a man. It's simple. But don't bring that stuff to me. And here's what guys got to understand. Have some value in yourself. Point blank, period. Otherwise, you're always going to be stressed out, dealing with people with personal problems. And then here's the killer. You're going to realize that the guys before, listen to what I'm about to say. Stop the show. The guys before didn't have to give anything to the same level that you did to marry her or be with her long term. They gave little. She gave a lot to them. Okay? Then once you break up, the guy after will also give very little, if not nothing, in comparison to you. And a lot of married men or guys in long-term relationships find out after that they have overpaid for the wrong woman. Don't get me wrong. There are right women out here in the world. I believe that. I've met plenty of nice women in my life that I can even admit that I've messed up the relationship with them. At least 2 or 3, okay? So I'm not going to begrudge all ladies because it's not true. But most guys, I would feel, can understand what I'm talking about today. You've had at least one relationship where women were giving a guy less than what you gave her. And then when you break up, she gives another guy less again. Men have to put themselves first in relationships to a certain point. If a woman doesn't want to do something, that's fine. But it's not your job to sit there and try to figure out why she can't do something for you. Because when it's time to get those bills paid, do you have to say, you know what? I just don't feel like paying the bills this month. I just don't feel like taking out the trash this day. I don't feel like planning, oh, you're sick. I don't feel like going, and getting the tampons, or I don't feel like going out and doing these things. I don't feel like putting together the stuff that we have, the roofing and all the, I don't feel like it right this month. What if you were to do that? Even women who are in sex relationships will be pissed off. What do you mean you don't want to do that? And that's the thing that the men have to understand. Women expect men to uphold their deals in long-term relationships, even when they know they won't. That's the reality. Men have to always put up with that. Women expect you to still stand firm, even when they decide to go otherwise. And that's the problem with men. Because we want to give women unconditional love when they don't all the time give it to you. And like I said, women make you women make you have conditions before you deal with them. They make you achieve something. They make you have something in return. Men got to do the same thing. You don't want to do this. You don't want to uphold your deal in the bargain. We're not going to elevate nothing. Elevate your ass up out of here and go away. It's the only way to deal with people like this. Because all the excuses can come. God told me this. God told me that. Well, God also told me you getting your ass up out of here. Or I'm getting up out of here. Oh, we talking to 2 different guys now, right? Stop dealing with that foolishness. Because if you deal with it, it's always going to be there. Let people play games with themselves, not with you. But guys, it's your boy O'Shea Duke Jackson back at it again with another episode of Fair Use. Subscribe, hit the bell. We're out.